Welcome to the very first episode of the Sing Me the Songs of Zion Saints podcast. This is a very new format for us, and we hope you will bear with us as we get up to speed. The presenters in this episode are Sister Becky Tarbuk, Sister Tessa Parry, and Sister Lisa Champine. May God bless you as you spend a little time with the Songs of Zion. So basically, the three of us are here today because of one little idea that my niece Tessa had on a visit to Imperial. And through that one idea, we've come to this place where we're going to attempt to do this podcast of the Songs of Zion. This was my thoughts. What is that picture that I see? It is our desire to provide a platform to speak about the Songs of Zion given by God to Sister Arlene Buffington, a member of the Church of Jesus Christ. We realize that since her passing in 2021, this firsthand knowledge went with her. We want to preserve what we have from Sister Arlene's own historical archives and present them to all who would listen. That thought is what began our quest to present something to whoever is interested in the Songs of Zion. And so just a little background information on how this sort of came out, as I referenced, I'm going to let Tessa tell how she felt about it, having come to Imperial for the first time as a young adult. So Tessa, give us your thoughts on that.
Well, I honestly, thinking back on it, I find it very funny because originally when we talked, we were just going to talk scripture. But as soon as we got there, like the Songs of Zion was just on my mind. Like I could not get it out of my head. So I started asking all these questions and everything. And then Sister Becky started mentioning how she has all these cassette tapes downstairs in her basement. And I of course was like, well, can I see? Can I? And so later in the week, we went down and I just saw all these cassette tapes. They're all along the wall. And I was just amazed. Like I was in awe. I didn't know, like, it's so cool. Just all that history along the wall. Like she recorded everything, sermons, all that stuff, and just learning about that was so cool. Seeing all the papers, I like will not forget the first song, My Place, was written in red ink. I'm pretty sure it was marker. So see, as soon as it popped in her head, there it is. So Sister Becky, when we were down there, she said something along the lines of, I just wish I knew what to do with all these. So of course now I'm thinking in my head, what could we do? What are the things? So I'm just thinking throughout the day, and then hours later, a podcast pops in my head. So I just out of the blue, I said, what if we did a podcast? And then just everything came to be, everything fell in place. And honestly, it felt like God was in the room because it was so natural and everything just worked out great. We got all these ideas and then now we're here. It was really cool to see. And I'm very excited for what this podcast will bring. I'm very excited to learn not only about Sister Arlene, her story, how she got the songs, but also like about God, because she had to be so close to God. And that's so cool. That's something I think everyone in the church would want. So I just love to see how she did it. And I'm excited. I'm probably the most excited just to learn everything from you guys.
Well, Lisa has been to Imperial so many times I couldn't count. And she was like a right arm to my mom. She did so many things for her and with her. And she really was like a daughter to my mom. So Lisa's been here. She and I know each other very well, but it was Tessa's first visit. And when we sat in the living room and we started talking, to see Tessa's purity, her excitement, hearing it for the first time and being in a state of awe and wonder. It was so beautiful. And then when she came up with the idea, she goes, let's do a podcast. And I think we all burst into laughter. But the reason for the podcast is to preserve what God has done, to give him the honor and glory, and to not let those testimonies fall to the ground, that we might recount them, that the church might be edified.
And I think that's really important because, as we said, that firsthand knowledge and information, although Sister Becky has been around the songs her whole life, she could recount just about anything that Sister Arlene brought forth because of just for the fact that it was her mother and she was with her so often. But that's still secondhand information. And so before that gets too far away, we all agreed that to have a format like this where we share some of those precious gold nuggets that are in Sister Arlene's historical archives. And that's not a joke to say historical archives, because she was very diligent in keeping this history for a future purpose and to our benefit now, because now we can go back through those things. However, her system of how that worked went with her too. And so we're all diving in really and trying to make sense of it. But I think the Lord is giving us a little information. We're getting a little light all the time on how to proceed. This podcast being one of them. The other sort of side series to this new venture is going to be the story behind the songs, where we actually share her experience along with the song, just to have just a very brief sort of minute with the songs of Zion. So that's going to be forthcoming as well. Our main goal, I think, when we were that weekend that we spent together, and it was a very special weekend, I have to say, I think we felt like the Lord was showing us something. Not an actual experience per se, but just something that spoke to our hearts. Coming away from that, the next day, of course, was Sunday. We were getting ready to go to church, but one of the things we talked about is, what would we call this effort? And immediately we came up with the idea of using number 2 in the Songs of Zion, Sing Me the Songs of Zion, Saints. And so going forward, that's what this podcast is going to be called. If you read through this song, just about every verse speaks to what our intent is. And I'm not going to read that now. Maybe we'll include it later on in this podcast. And just this is going to be very introductory today. And we're going to just talk about briefly what the Songs of Zion are, how they have been given, and what makes that special. I think that there's going to be some questions directed to Sister Becky tonight, just because we felt that it's important to start there. And then as we go forward, more will come, and we'll do a deep dive on some other things. And we have a lot of ideas, and we hope that we'll have the Lord's blessing in this, and that it might edify the saints.
I would like to read the song because I think it'll fuel our thoughts, lay the groundwork for the podcast.
Okay.
Sing me the songs of Zion, saints. The scripture under the heading says Isaiah 42:10. Sing unto the Lord a new song in his praise from the end of the earth. Sing me the songs of Zion, saints, and point me to the way. My blindness fades as faith sets in, so I can see the day. Tell me again how Zion's land shall not remember pain. Then sing about my heart's desire, the blessed latter rain. Sing me the songs I love to hear. Tell me about the seer. Oh, sing above the raging world. Oh, sing away the fear. Repeat again the prophecy and clarify to me. Fair Zion blooms, you say it blooms, and I will shortly see. Sing once again, the time has come, the hour is at the door, when peace shall reign 1,000 years, and war will be no more. Say it again, I love to hear. My Jesus will I see. Will he be king upon the land, as it was told to me? Sing me the songs of Zion, saints, and say again it's near. As thunder roars across the sky, my heart is prone to fear. Come then and make the message clear and tell again to me, the peaceful rain is here, it's here. Be patient and you'll see.
You can't do better than the words God has given.
That's right.
So for point of reference, I think we want to start out with at the very beginning, and that is that this truly was a gift given by God to Sister Arlene Buffington. And as we said earlier, who was a member of the Church of Jesus Christ her entire life. I think it's important to recognize that this is a gift, because there have been times in Sister Arlene's history where people thought that she just had musical ability, that she could write a song on a topic and come up with music. As a matter of fact, people would come to her who didn't understand what this gift was and ask her to write a song for an occasion, a wedding, whatever it may be. And when she would have to say to them that she was unable to do so, not everybody was understanding of that or recognized that this truly was something that God gave her. And so to clarify, Sister Arlene had no musical ability, very, very little musical ability. A few piano lessons. Did you say at one time she tried guitar lessons or something like that, Becky?
Girl.
Okay. So very little musical ability. She wasn't a great singer in the way we would think of as somebody who could stand up in front of a microphone and sing a selection, in front of a group or a congregation. One of my favorite experiences that she had was when she felt compelled to sing the song to her branch and then wait until Brother Eugene was able to come and put it to paper. But one time she knew she had to do it and she didn't want to. And she said, Lord, don't shame me in front of my people. And I think about that because that's very telling of her personality, and that it could not have been given to a better person, because it would truly show the fact that this was a gift, and it was not, she didn't have a little ability and God gave her more. She had no ability to carry this off. And I think that's why she was the perfect vessel for this. So with that being said, in our church, the Church of Jesus Christ, we do believe that God gives gifts to members of that church. And so we want to clarify in our minds what that means. And so we're going to read a scripture in 1 Corinthians 12, 9 through 11. To another, faith by the same Spirit. To another, the gifts of healing by the same Spirit. To another, the working of miracles. To another, prophecy. To another, discerning of spirits. To another, diverse kinds of tongues. To another, the interpretation of tongues. But all these worketh that one and selfsame Spirit, dividing to every man severally as he will. And that's exactly how it was for Sister Arlene. She woke up one day and received a song after praying about something, which we'll get into later, but it was the young people of the church. And from that moment on, a gift was made manifest. I don't even think she realized it herself. I think that's part of her testimony. It wasn't until maybe she got 7 or 8 songs that she realized that she had a gift. Somebody had to point it out to her, I would also mention. The special part about this is that all of us have a task to do. Whether that task is manifested as a gift or just something that has been assigned to us to do, it's all important functions of the body of Christ. And so we don't look upon one as better than the other. All are important. This happens to be a very important one because of the manner with which it was given and the fact that it is musical, and as Becky likes to say, a lyrical gift that all of the congregations of the Church of Jesus Christ and friends of the church have sung and been blessed by and benefited from. And so to reiterate, we receive gifts that the church might be edified, that the bride might be adorned with these gifts. No matter what your gift is, if you don't use wisdom, you'll misuse your gift. And I think that's something that Sister Arlene, learned from her father and used wisdom all of her days. I think it's important to understand what kind of gift the Songs of Zion are. And in my opinion, there's probably many facets to this, but we've picked out a few to talk about in this podcast. Sister Arlene always said that the Songs of Zion often spoke of the prophecies that are found in the Bible and the Book of Mormon, and that it was done in a way that was easy for us to understand because you can sing the deep prophecies with a song with beautiful music and it can come into complete understanding. So the Songs of Zion is a prophetic gift. The Songs of Zion have also brought healing. We have one song that says in it, music takes away the pain. And it's important to know that and to realize that it can bring that to you. It can put you in a state of mind that a healing can occur. And Sister Becky is going to share an experience that actually happened with regard to healing in the Songs of Zion.
Well, this was early on in the Songs of Zion, and sometime after 1976, probably more like 1980 or something like that. Mom was receiving the songs, and there was a brother and sister that started attending our branch, and Mom had just been given number 30 in the Songs of Zion, called "Touch the Nail Prints." And after the meeting, she went up to this sister and she said, "Would you like to read the song that I was just given?" And the sister said she was in so much pain. She had back and neck trouble. And she said, but she didn't want to be rude. And she said yes. And she took the paper. And when she read the words, let me see. "With his blood, he seals your pardon. By his grace, you are made free." She was healed right then. The pain left her. And that was her testimony. So,
That's beautiful.
yeah.
That's just crazy to hear about. It's crazy just by reading that paper.
Yeah.
Serious ways.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's important to realize that, this just isn't any song. This just isn't any music. If somebody can hear the words given by God and then immediately receive, it bears witness to the fact that this gift is truly a gift given by God, because you just can't manufacture that. You can't do that. I think, and one of the other things that I have on my list of how we can describe what kind of gift the Songs of Zion is to us is hope. And that's very important because many of these songs speak of a better day. We all go through things. We all have trial. We all have struggle. But these songs in particular speak to us of a day that is coming, that is a better one than we have now. At the end of one of the experiences in the Songs of Zion hymnal, it says this, and I'm just going to read it. And if anybody who is watching this has a hymnal, it's in there. So go look for it. It says, "We hope and pray that you will also feel spiritually edified by the Songs of Zion presented in this collection. As the songs are sung, the Spirit will bear witness to the truth of these experiences and testimonies. They do not all speak of Zion, but they all contain the Spirit of Zion, the spirit of a better day, a greater hope, and a vision of latter-day glory." I always have read that and thought that is a perfect way to sort of sum it up. And you can't really understand the greatness of this gift without also accepting that it gives hope to whomever will apply themselves to learning them, to singing them, to reading them. Okay, so having had the benefit of coming with me to Imperial and seeing all this firsthand, Tessa sort of has been given a little light and wanted to know more. And so part of this first podcast that we're doing here is she is going to present some of those questions to Sister Becky and answer them, because we feel like there's probably a lot more that have the same questions that Tessa has, especially the young people who maybe are coming into the Songs of Zion and having them mean something to them for the first time since we've had the new hymnal printed. And so now we're going to sort of move into that part of the podcast where Tessa is going to put some of her own personal questions to Sister Becky.
Okay. So one of the first, I just want to start from the beginning. The first, what age and what year did she receive her first song ever?
She was 41 years old, and it was in 1976.
1976. Can you share, like, what were her thoughts of when she first received this gift? What did she feel? Was she super excited? What'd she do?
Well, I'll tell how she explained how the first song was given and then what happened, thereafter. So she was at home one day. All of her kids, she had 4 kids. None of them were baptized or serving the Lord yet. We were all still at home. And she was sitting at her dining room table and she was wondering why they weren't serving God. I think she was praying to God about her children. And all at once, words and music came. And she said she grabbed a pencil and she could hardly write fast enough to keep up with it. She heard the words and she heard the music, and the power of God came down on her. She said she was weak for 2 days. But my dad came home from work and he saw her sitting at the table crying. And he said to himself, well, it's either good news or it's bad news. And, he came up and she said, Bob, I received words today. They came so fast I could hardly write them. They went to church that evening and she told everybody what happened. And they went home, and the next day she got another song. And she said, oh my, I can't go back to church and tell them I got another one. She thought it was a one-time experience. And it wasn't until she received about maybe her 9th song or 11th song, somebody said, you've been given a gift. And her father also used to say, people will see your gift in you before you see it yourself. So that's how it started.
That's beautiful. What was some of the responses when she brought it out to the branch? What were their responses? Were they overjoyed? What did they feel?
Well, when something is new, nobody knows what to make of it. You really don't, because you don't know what's happening. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
but the branch was supportive. Her family was supportive. The songs were born in a place. Lisa says Imperial was the cradle. They were born in a place where they could be supported and grow, and you would have people around you that loved you and believed what you said. And so in the very beginning, I mean, I remember my Aunt Jean. She would help my mom. She had an old black manual typewriter with those big heavy black ones, tick 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 tick. She'd type up the words, and we have those copies, how she typed the early ones, some of those things. But everybody, I would say, was basically supportive. Every once in a while you get somebody who wants something else. They
Yeah. Did she ever ask for this gift?
I don't believe she ever did. Before she got this, she had a couple experiences throughout her life in the church. And could I give you one example?
Yeah.
So she married my dad, and my mom was very quiet. My dad was more, I don't like to use the word charismatic, but he loved people. He was always talking. Everybody was like, Brother Bob, and my mom was the quiet one. I never heard her yell. And so when he met her, he came to church and he was baptized. Well, he said he was like Lehi. When he found the church, when he partook of that white, delicious fruit, he turned to see where his family was. And he always said they all came, But he used to bring, we started out in a converted garage, a little block building, and it had a little pot. It had 2 rooms and a pot-belly stove where we had our Sunday school classes. And he used to bring his grandmother. She was older, uh, maybe not so well, and they would put her, I don't know if they had a wheelchair. They had the old theater seats in the church, and they would put her in there and they would wrap her in legs in blankets. And she was never able to be baptized. She got sick before she could, but she used to say, Bob, I'd just love to go live with those people. And at first, her husband, he was a Nazarene. He did not want her to leave the Nazarene church and attend with my dad. And so one day when my dad was picking her up for church, his grandfather said, "Mother, a house that's divided will not stand." And she said, "Well, so it don't fall on me. I'm going with Bob." And but she got sick very quickly, and so here she died. And when you're raised in the church, you hear you must repent and be baptized to enter into the kingdom of heaven. And so she wondered about that, and she had a dream, and she saw my dad's grandmother. And she said, "Grandma, are you all right?" And she said, "I am in paradise." So that was a dream that she had. And my mom had some health problems, and the Lord helped her through that, and I know she believed and saw many blessings along the way.
That's beautiful.
Hmm.
When was when did Sister Arlene realize that she should share the Songs of Zion with the rest of the church and not only your branch?
Well, she was always willing. Um, I don't really know how it unfolded. She was always willing. Um, and I know this is probably too early to say it, but right from the very beginning, she wrote a letter to the church that they could use them, they could print them. It's an official letter with her signature and everything. And but the thing I have to say that you never expect is opposition. So my summation of the matter is, some will love your gift and receive it with joy and gladness, and they'll use it, and some will fight against it. And some it won't mean anything at all. There's like 3 groups, some that are sort of oblivious to what happens. And then heaven knows why some people fight against. It has to be unbelief. That's the answer. And so she was, she put them on paper. God then brought in Brother Eugene. She sang them to him. He put them on paper. She had the tune, the timing, the words. She sang them to him. He put them on paper. And when they got organized enough to make up books, you know, I really don't know how it went, but she was always willing to give it to the church. But there was a lot of obstacles, and but she was always giving them to the church, always.
When did Brother Eugene start? When did he start coming to help with the songs? Do you know how many songs were already given by the time he came in?
I believe she said, "I had 57 songs laying on my piano." And I said, "Lord, I know you didn't give me these songs to sing in my kitchen." So in the branch, everybody knew, everybody believed, and they had a gathering in their home. And they were talking about they needed somebody to put the songs on paper, to arrange the songs, to set the key signature, to add to chords, you know. So I was there. I was baptized in 1979. So it was sometime after that, but very early on, probably 79, 80, something like that.
I think it was
And we all,
March of 1980.
oh, good. And so we all rose and we held hands. And the brother that prayed said, Lord, we know there's many in the church who could do this work, but we're not going to name any names tonight. We're going to ask you to send the one. So the next day, I believe it was, Brother Eugene Amermino, who my mom and dad said they only remember meeting one time. He was brought to their home at a conference 10 years prior. He went home from work. He heard the words, call Sister Arlene. And, you know, that's like us. Sometimes we'll hear or get a thought and you're not sure really if it's from God, right? Maybe it's just a thought. And then he heard it again, call Sister Arlene. And, you know, and then the third time, call Sister Arlene now. He picked up the phone. My mom answered and he said, Sister Arlene, this is Brother Eugene Amermino, and I don't even know why I'm calling. And that's how it began. And he had a young family at the time. I always say my mom did not have the ability, the education, or the musical talent. Brother Eugene had the ability. He had the education and the degree, and God took the two and married them together, and they worked on this gift together. I mean, her part and his part. They each had a spouse. I mean, their work was together. They worked in tandem for many years. So
That's
he came
beautiful.
the first time. We have a picture of him with his white shirt and dress pants and a briefcase, smiling. And he came in the house and my mom said, do you take coffee while you work? And he said, are you ready to start? She said, I've waited, I don't know how many years. And yes, I'm ready to start. So this is what they would do. He would kneel down and she would kneel down. He would pray and she would pray. And she said her prayer was, Lord, if Brother Eugene doesn't hear what I hear, this is never going to work. They would get up. I think he said, sing me the first verse. She'd sing it. Sing me the first line. She'd sing it. Sing me the first note. She'd sing it. Then he would begin putting the notes where they should be. You know, it was a process. They would work, and that's how they would do it. She would sing, he would write, she would sing, he would write. And he said sometimes he would even test her and she'd say, oh, no, should be this note. Or no, that chord is just not right. Do you want to add anything to that, Lisa? Because you're musical.
Well, I think it's important to realize that when these calls happened, you know, they were praying on a Sunday evening, March 9th, 1980. Brother Eugene called her the next day, March 10th, 1980. March 28th, 1980 was the first time that Eugene went down. So this wasn't like, yeah, we got to get together sometime and get this started. 10 days after they had the conversation, Brother Eugene was in Imperial doing this. I remember from Brother Eugene's point of view, I remember him saying at one point that, you know, he didn't even think he would be able to, you know, Sister Donna asked him, how many songs do you think you'll be able to get done? He's like, I don't know, maybe one or two. I don't know. You know, I won't know until I get there how this is going to go. And when he got there, he just pulled one song off the stack. And that was also a test. Because if Sister Arlene didn't know the music and words to every single song in that stack of 50 some songs that were on the top of her piano, Brother Eugene would have realized it was a false gift immediately. So he didn't like, well, you pick one, Sister Arlene. He took one out of the stack And that's how they started working. And it was seamless. And this, when they prayed, the things that they prayed about happened. He heard what she heard. They were able to work, like Sister Becky said, in tandem for many years. I think as a musician, the first time I realized that this was definitely the Lord working was when they visited the Detroit area, which at that time the church was called districts and not regions as we are now, but we were known as the Michigan Ontario District. It was in 1986, and they had had a weekend of meetings throughout the region. And since we're split up east side, west side, they had some on the east side of the church, some on the west side of where our branches are. And so they were having an afternoon meeting at one of the big branches. At that time, it was branch 3. They were still in Detroit, and they had their old building had a balcony in it, and a big congregation, a sanctuary there that everybody was in. And we had come to that meeting, and I was just out of high school, starting. I was in college for music education at the time. And so we went, and I had always known the songs of Zion because, of course, my father being one of the Champine brothers, also Tessa's grandfather, because they were all musical in the church, they knew each other. And so they were brothers and sisters in the church, but they spent time together outside of the church because of this musical talent that they had. So I always knew Brother Eugene and Sister Donna from that point of view. And so I always believed the songs of Zion. My parents did. We all accepted them. But I think for me, the moment that I realized as a musician that this is not something that happens every day was in that meeting. Because in that meeting, a sister asked the question that they opened the after Sister Arlene said her part and Brother Eugene said his part. And they talked about some of the songs and different experiences connected to them. They opened questions. They just opened the floor to questions. And a sister in the meeting asked if they could show the congregation how they do this process. And I was like, I remember, I was probably 18 years old, and I can remember feeling aghast because I thought to myself, how could you dare ask them to sort of put this on display? But God is so wise. Sister Arlene used to always say, God is so smart. He is. And so he knew exactly what he was doing and why that question was asked. But Sister Arlene had just received the song, Be of Good Cheer. They had not yet had an opportunity to work on it. And so Eugene says, well, why, maybe we could show them. And Sister Arlene says, well, I always pray, then he always prays. And one of the ministry that was there that day and said, maybe that is why my knees are burning. We need to pray. And so the whole congregation knelt down and prayed that we would be in a place that we could see this happen. And, again, I mean, I was probably 18 years old. I'd only been baptized in the church 2 years. This is I was sitting in the Holy of Holies at this point. This was beyond my expectation of coming to this meeting. And we got up from that prayer and they began to work. Now, of course, they were not prepared. Brother Eugene didn't have any manuscript paper, but as a musician, I'm sort of watching him going, how in the world is he going to do this? He just took a blank sheet of paper and scored it off, as manuscript paper. And he began just the way Sister Becky had already explained. Sing me the chorus. So she did. Sing me the first line. She did. Now I'm looking at this going, are you kidding me? Are we really seeing this? By the time they were through, in just a span of 5 or 10 minutes, maybe not even that much, the congregation who was witnessing this was able to sing the chorus of that song. And that is when I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that the songs of Zion were true. They were a gift from God. And I could speak to that not only as a member of the church, but as a musician who realizes how difficult it is to write music out of your head. And so from that point on, I mean, I never doubted anyway, but it was solidified in me that this was different than all the other songs we sang in the church. I came in when my family came into the church, the big songbook was the country western. And so we knew all those songs in that book. We sang them often in the branch that I attended at the time. But after that meeting, nobody could have talked me out of the Songs of Zion. They still can't to this day because of that impact that that had on me. However, I will say I never expected at that point in my young, my early years in the church to ever in any way be connected to the Songs of Zion. And that's a testimony for another time, but it has impacted my life in every aspect of my life. And I can't deny it. I would never attempt to deny it. But it's the truth. And I will say that to my last breath, whether that is here on this earth or in Zion, I will testify to the truth and the witness of the Songs of Zion.
Tessa, if I can just add one thing. Since she mentioned Be of Good Cheer, it brings to mind the experience that was had when that song was given. My mother was troubled about something. It was in the evening. She was going to bed, and she knelt down by her bed, and she said, "Father, I would like to walk and talk with you like men of old, but I know I'm not worthy. If you could just send a messenger." She got in bed, started to fall asleep, and the phone rang. She looked at the clock. It was 11 o'clock. You don't get any calls at 11 o'clock. Here it was a sister from Ohio. She had a dream, and a messenger appeared and said, "Tell Sister Arlene to hold up her head and don't put it down." And then the song just came. It was given, words and music. And that's what the chorus says, I have to say, right? Hold up your head now and don't put it down. The day you have dreamed of is here. I'm not a singer either, but you get the idea.
That's so cool. She got a little portion of that song. And Sister
Yeah.
Arlene, that's so cool.
Yeah. That couldn't happen. That couldn't be a coincidence. It was it's the living scripture where it says, "Ask and ye shall receive, knock and it shall be opened unto you, seek and ye shall find." And sometimes you get an answer right away.
That's so cool. That was quick.
Yes.
That was super quick. That's crazy. It's so beautiful hearing all these stories about how just a random sister getting this dream, how Sister Lisa came into it. Super
Yes.
beautiful. I would have loved to be in that meeting to see them work like that. That had to it just had to feel different. Like God was in the room.
I definitely think that was the case, just based on the feeling that was there. You could feel the spirit there at that moment. I can only say that meeting was impactful to me, and it stayed with me the rest of my life until I sort of was brought into the work of the Songs of Zion. That was not anything I sought. I didn't go to Sister Arlene and say, "Hey, could I be used in this way? Could I do something?" It just happened. And I think my own personal belief is that the Lord brought this all about. But I had to start way back in 1986 when that was made complete. We say we have faith in something because the very definition of the word faith is, belief in something that you can't see. My faith in the Songs of Zion turned into knowledge after that meeting, because now it wasn't as I think it's a gift from God. I walked out of that meeting knowing beyond a shadow of a doubt that that was a gift from God. And it set me on a course for the rest of my life in the church, even up until now, some almost 40 years later. And so those who went to that meeting with a desire to understand and to know this gift left that meeting with that being made real to them.
Did she ever realize that she would get over 230 songs? Did
No,
she? No.
the people would say, I had a dream you had 500 songs. I had a dream. Somebody said the other day that you were going to be given number 157. And I forget who was telling me that. That was just the other day. And they said, I remember when she got 157. And no, she didn't know. And mom used to say, because we have this hope of Zion, right? This, she always said the songs of Zion are an introduction to Zion, keeping that hope alive in our vision, looking forward to the things that we always believe and expected. She used to say, of course, she hoped she would make it into Zion. Our parents hoped they would. We hope we will. I think we will. But anyway, she used to say, if she would get into Zion, she says, well, if I just received one a year, that would be 1,000 right there. She had hope, faith. She just waited on the Lord.
Sister Arlene was the same every single day of her life.
Every day.
Like Sister Becky said, she had faith, she had hope. She lived and breathed the Church of Jesus Christ and the songs of
Oh,
Zion.
yeah.
And there was nothing else in her life. There was nothing else in her life. And
there was
so
nothing
she did
else in her life, is right, Lisa.
that. Her entire life was revolved around those two things. And I think the third runner of those things would be her family. That's it. That's all she had.
Yeah.
That's all she had in her life. And the Lord blessed her for it. You just don't, without some kind of focus on Him, you just don't, you don't get and sustain a gift like that. And so she may have looked unassuming, but in my mind, she was a spiritual giant.
Their
And
lives
I miss
revolved
her to
around
this
the church.
day.
Oh, their life,
100% revolving with the church.
yeah, their lives revolved around the church for sure.
That's beautiful. That's something as a young person in church, I strive to be just right up there with God. I'm very happy we have this podcast. I've learned so much already, and I'm excited to learn more. I really am. It's a beautiful, beautiful story. And just the way you guys talk about it, it's so cool, where you know it off the top of your head, and it's so cool.
Well, the song that was used for this podcast was it Sing Me the Songs of Zion Saints. So I just want to interject before we conclude. This song was given, I don't know whether my mother read the story or heard someone preach about it, but Brother Tony DiBattista from Glassport was dying. He was in his bed and he called his daughters around him and he said, sing me one of the songs of Zion. Now, this was way before the songs of Zion came forth. And when she heard that testimony, that song was given words and music.
That's beautiful.
Well, I think for our first one, I think we covered a lot of ground today. There's more to cover. There's more to understand. There's more to talk about. And so we're going to do that going forward. There's sort of a little tagline that we have with the Songs of Zion. It's the music of a brighter dawn, which of course is in one of the Songs of Zion, but we look forward to that brighter dawn. We look forward to the understanding of this gift that God has given, to really understand Sister Arlene's own personal experiences with the songs, and not only hers, but to see and hear from some of the eyewitnesses to this in the last 46 or so years. We're a little bit more than 46. I think we're about 47 or 48 years now, but that's coming. And so we're just asking you to bear with us as we sort of navigate this new technology for the Songs of Zion. And we're going to try to be as regular as we can be. At this point, we're promising like once a month. That might change as we get more in tune with what we're doing. But that's our goal, and we're hoping that that we can set that goal for ourselves. And so that's where we're going in the future, and we're going to have a lot more stories to tell. We hope you'll join us. We're going to be on all of the social media um, outlets that we personally are comfortable with. And so for right now, that's going to be Facebook and YouTube. We have both of those channels, which we'll provide a link for. And in addition to that, we also have the Songs of Zion website, which is thesongsofzion.com, where many of these things can be found in addition to words to the songs. And very soon, a download file of Sister Arlene's own experiences of the songs. We also have an Instagram account now, only because my niece told me that young people don't use Facebook. So we have that as well. So we hope you'll join us in the future. And if you have felt something today, please share and comment with us that we can maybe address that going forward. If you have questions, you can email us at info@thesongsofzion.com. So thanks for coming and taking and being a part of this. You'll have to forgive us if this comes across a little rough. It's our first try at this, but we hope more than anything that you look past all the technical difficulties and you feel the spirit of the songs that we feel. We hope you'll be back and share some more with us.